Hi, and welcome to another exciting pirate news. Today we're bringing you the quarterly recap. My name is Joe. I am your quartermaster and now national vice chair. I bring you today Jamie, who is the captain of the Massachusetts chapter, and Megan, the chair of our national committee. And so we actually have some really good stuff to talk about with you today. So we're going to start right off. We're going over the recap. And Jamie, if you could tell us a little bit about our regional meetings and how those went down.
Sure. So far, we're trying to have a regional meeting once a month. So far in March, we had two of them, one in Boston and then another one in Lowell. Those went pretty well, and you can see we'll link to it below, and you can see, what things were discussed at the Boston meeting. We're talking a lot about platform and trying to focus on that in preparation for the 2020 elections. And then additionally, we have two others scheduled. One is Worcester, which will be Sunday, April 28th from 4:30 to 7:30 at the workshop, which is 233 Stafford Street, Worcester. And then on May 18th, Saturday, from 10:30 to 1:45 at the Somerville Public Library, 79 Highland Ave, we're going to be meeting there as well. And then hopefully Holyoke in June, and then we'll see where else after that.
Okay. And so far this year, we've actually had some pretty big happenings in these last few months, namely with Article 11 and Article 13 in the European Union. Megan, Jamie, what are your thoughts on these?
Well, as far as my understanding of the two, because I'm on Reddit, most of the people are upset because it takes copyright to memes and creative content. And that's my understanding of that. I'm not really too up to date on much else other than that subject in particular. I think that if it really does take creative content to images, sharing of images, that starts to get into a very gray area. And you start to wonder, where do you draw that line?
Yeah, I mean, thankfully this fight still isn't over. But Articles 13 and 11 basically impose a link tax and upload filters for any website in the European Union. And thankfully, even though it passed the European Parliament and it's gone through all the other procedures, it still has to be enshrined in national law for it to be effective. And I know Sweden's come out against it. Hopefully Germany will come out against it. And some other countries, the Czech Republic, I believe, probably will come out against it. So that'll make it harder. I think it may need an additional threshold of countries to support it before it can go forward. But even then, it's going to be a patchwork quilt of implementation in different European countries.
Okay. And going right into copyright law and things of that nature, a couple other big things was Chelsea Manning and Julian Assange, and the happenings of what's been going on with them. What are your real thoughts on the whole whistleblowing and everything that's been done against them?
Well, I have some personal feelings about this whole action with Assange. Let me be clear, I'm not really a personal fan of Assange. I don't like his personality. I think that might be the best way to put it. But I do not understand how he's being charged with American crimes as an American citizen for something that Chelsea could have gotten off anywhere else online. And I find that this line that we're crossing, as I think our American government is crossing, is a very, very dangerous line to cross. I mean, you could ask that this could have happened with the Pentagon Papers. Am I correct?
Absolutely.
I mean,
from what I understand, he's a Australian citizen, correct?
yes, he's an Australian citizen.
So, as far as I understand it as well, he was in the embassy in London, and he's trying to be. U.S. is trying to extradite him back to the U.S. so that they can try him and lock him away forever and shut down the whole WikiLeaks thing. And so, I mean, I was reading a piece from watching a piece from Sargon of Akkad, and it was even though I don't always see eye to eye with him, he was like right on the money with what he was saying. Like who cares if this guy's an a-hole, so long as he's doing something right. I mean, who cares what he was doing? I mean, I feel bad for anyone who had to put up with him.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think anyone's a big fan of him personally, but every once in a while you need that type of personality to keep everything straight. And if we infringe upon his rights, what are we? Where once you cross that line, like you said, how do you can't go back?
I mean, like, he's being charged, if I'm correct, with espionage and whatnot. Those are crimes that carry a death sentence, but he's only facing 5 years. He's not an American citizen. I mean, you could argue, I mean, I've had this debate with my husband about where this could potentially go. You could potentially do this to any American citizen. You could do this with Breitbart, say that they had some information that became whistleblower-esque, or they had some information that was very damaging, and they decided to post it. They decided to publish the information, and you could essentially go after them. I mean, this is a very, very dangerous line that we're playing with, and I think that if we cross it, there will be no going back. And I hate to sound dramatic about it, but if you decide to say, well, what is a real journalist? Define a journalist. Define, whistleblowing. Define this, and what is illegal? It still comes under that First Amendment right, and you cannot cross that.
Yeah,
Congress shall make no law abridging freedom of speech is pretty clear in the Constitution.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, from what I understand, there's 3 different countries after him: the UK, Sweden, the US.
Not Sweden anymore.
Not Sweden anymore?
Not Sweden anymore. They dropped all charges.
Yeah.
Or they never made any charges, but they dropped they dropped the "hey, we want to talk with you" in Sweden.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay.
Yeah.
So from what I understand, he was breaching bail, which he faces 12 months in prison for that in the UK. But then the US is really going into hacking of intelligence computers, which is their big thing.
I honestly think the case is so thin. I don't know how it'll even upstand in court. But it's the act of doing it that is the dangerous and most vile piece of all of this.
I mean, not to say anything, but didn't Trump say how much he loved the guy? He's like, WikiLeaks, I love WikiLeaks.
Yeah, you love WikiLeaks.
But now suddenly he doesn't love him anymore? Like,
he doesn't know anything about them, yes.
like
more lies per unit time,
yeah. Yeah, that's part of the glory of whistleblowers. You love whistleblowers until you're blown out yourself.
I mean, one of the things, we've seen with the indictment is that there's a lot of leaning on the CFAA law, which was used against Schwartz and has been used against other people who hacked. And so I see a lot of people talking about how, well, he went beyond what other news organizations would do. But when you look at it, they deleted logs. Okay, well, that's called covering your tracks. And journalists are going to do that. They used encrypted communication. Well, yep, they used Signal and they used HTTPS and they used secure docs and things and other things for taking whistleblowing documents. Okay, so now the New York Times and the Washington Post could run afoul of that. They claim hacking, but they never actually. He never actually cracked any passwords. Manning never got any documents by hacking. Manning got the documents simply because Manning had the access. And that's another thing that we have to remember here is that Chelsea Manning is in jail and until recently was in solitary confinement simply because she refused to testify against Assange. And all the information that they have, all the information that they're holding her for so that she can say things about Assange, they already have anyways. There's nothing new there. So this is just them being vindictive because Obama pardoned Chelsea. And that's the other thing that we forget is that if Assange comes here, he's going to be in solitary confinement. They don't need to torture him. That's torture enough. And so even if they only get him on 5 years, the problem that you're going to have is he's going to be there in inhumane conditions that even the UN says are inhumane.
I mean, yeah, he's already served like 6 or 7 years now.
Essentially, just being in the embassy.
I mean, how stir crazy do you have to be? Like cabin fever to the max, just being stuck there.
Well, I would like to bring up a piece here about the Pentagon Papers, if that's okay.
Of course.
Well, because this is a very similar case, I would argue, about the Pentagon Papers. Similar in the fact that information was leaked that was needed to be leaked. Because in 1971, there was a man, I think it was Daniel Ellsberg, I don't remember here.
Yep.
So he went up and photocopied a whole military report and sent it to the New York Times. And in the New York Times, and I think the Washington Post also, were facing gag orders. And this man was brought to trial and tried for leaking military and national security secrets, for this, and he was still found not guilty under the fact that he.
Sorry,
am I correct in what I'm saying? So I'm just going off from memory here. I want to make sure that I'm correct.
You seem to have broken up right there after he was found not guilty.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. He was under the First Amendment. The Washington Post and I think the Huffington Post as well were also facing gag orders. And I'm going off from memory here, so I want to make sure that I'm correct. I'm researching a bit in the background.
Well, this is the internet. We invite your corrections in the comment section below.
Thank you all. About this, and I feel that this is a very similar situation. I mean, Nixon, I think this was part of the beginning of the fall of Nixon, when he started going after the newspapers because of what he had done. I mean, I could be, again, I probably am possibly mistaken. I'm not a historian, but by photocopying these papers and sending them off to newspapers, how is that different than Chelsea Manning getting this information from somebody, anyone on the internet? I mean, she just asked the question and the answer was given. I mean, I'd argue it's no more difficult than a Google search. Not that hacking the United States government's that Google search hack away. But I would argue that finding this information, what she had done is queried the internet for the answer, and she got her answer. I mean, you could say that this could even happen to Brigida. There's a broad spectrum, and I'm very concerned.
And with that being said, so I mean, we've had a really exciting quarter, this first quarter, and really what we're fighting for is freedom of internet, because freedom of internet is freedom of speech, and so we'll continue that fight on that. And really, that really segments me right into the next part, which is what we're doing for our next quarter.
Sorry, if I can just interject a quick second.
Oh, of course.
Sorry. So just want to point out that Reality Winner, another whistleblower, is still in jail. It's going to be 2 years on the 3rd of June since she was arrested, and we'll include links down there for anyone who wants to help with their defense or send them a letter. Either Chelsea Manning, Reality Winter, or WikiLeaks and Julian Assange, if you want to help and send them a letter or donate to their defense fund or whatever.
That would be great. And going into what we're doing coming up for this next quarter is we're going to continue on with our regional meetings, as Jamie said before, and we are actually right in the midst of our officer and pirate council elections. So if you want to be a part of those elections, definitely sign up and join us.
Too late.
Oh, is it too late? Well, if you're a pirate, then
we created the ballots. We sent the ballots. Anyone who's not in our database, sorry, but
there's always next year.
There's always next year, and people can, of course, sign up. And people can sign up. They can volunteer. Even once the elections are over, we're still going to have a lot of positions that are open. So if anyone's interested in getting involved, either regionally or in the state party, email us at info@masspirates.org. Check out masspirates.org.
Because we need you. We really do. That and the other thing that we have that's coming up is the MeshNet. And we actually had a MeshNet win locally. So, Jamie, could you tell us a little bit more about that?
So massmesh.org has been working to take open source mesh networking software. And for those who don't know what a meshnet is, the simple idea is it's a community controlled network. Kind of think of it like your internet service provider, where you have a Wi-Fi network and a neighbor has a Wi-Fi network, and those networks can talk to one another and kind of go out like a mesh throughout your city to provide local internet access, and then through whatever other points onto the internet, onto the rest of the internet. And so in Massachusetts, mashmesh.org has been taking some software called LibreMesh and CJDNS and some other stuff and taking commodity hardware, bundling this open source software together so that people can then go and use it and set up their own nodes on the network. And recently they put up a node on a rooftop of an apartment building in downtown Boston.
Awesome. And hopefully it will continue to grow. With that being said, thank you both for joining us tonight, and I hope to hear from you both soon. I know we're soon, Megan and myself are going to try and start a national channel and start handling some of the bigger issues when it comes to our whole nation as a whole, and start addressing some of our policies and how we feel about that. Thank you both for joining me, and I hope you both have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Have a great day.
You too.
You too.